Hey everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka Beth Bookish, and on today's new NaNoWriMo video, I'm bringing you some tips and tricks for how to tackle a writing project. You might be thinking, well, it's the same as everything else. You sit down, you write, and there is an element of truth to that. But certainly, if you're not just doing this as like a casual thing, and this is a set challenge where you have a set amount, and you have a specific set amount of words that you need to write in that month, it's a little bit different because obviously with a novel you can spend years working on it, whereas with a writing challenge you've not got a lot of time. So I just wanted to go through some tips and tricks that personally I have learned through doing things like NaNoWriMo and, only succeeding 1 out of 5 times. But also just in general, whenever I've tackled a project like this, what sort of things I think about and what I recommend you try. I've also got a couple of resources in here that I'll be linking and talking about. These will also be made available on the Discord, and also once my Patreon goes up in the next week or two, there will be a G Drive and all of these will be on there too, should you choose that tier. But the very, very, very first thing, when we are coming into a new writing project, a new writing challenge, and we've got to think about what we're going to write, is choosing our idea. I did a video on the first where I talked about this and I went through different ways that you can generate ideas for your stories. Hopefully you have watched that. If not, please do check it out because it is, I think, quite useful. Definitely check that out and have a look at what ideas you want. Are you going to be writing a poetry collection? Are you looking at doing a short story that you want to submit for a competition? Are you writing a new novel? Are you working on an old novel and want to make progress? Are you doing line edits? Whatever it is that you want to tackle, you need to sort of decide what it is you're going to do. Don't be me, who is prepping for one thing and then 2 days before the project starts go, actually I want to work on something else, and cram so much into planning on that that you burn out and don't write anything for the main challenge. Done that twice. It's also good to set a realistic goal. Obviously with some challenges it's a very set thing, so like Inktober you have set prompts, Huevember you get set colours every day, NaNoWriMo it's a set target of 50,000. Whereas with this challenge it's to set your own goal. I personally am going for 31,000 words because I'm like, that's 1,000 words a day. I know that that is doable, but some of you might go, well, I know I can blast out 20,000 words in a day, and I've completed NaNoWriMo with 20,000 words to spare at the end. So choose a target that is realistically something you can do, but is also something that's going to be a challenge. For me, I know that on a good writing day, I can write anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 words. I also know that I have a habit of forgetting to write for 5-6 days in a row. So I know that 1,000 words a day is the most realistic for me, but is also going to be a challenge because I've got a lot of other stuff going on. One of the best ways that I can say to come up with your goal and set what your word target is going to be, spend a week during this planning month and pretend that it's the writing challenge. See how much you do write during that week. Every day, write down the total. At the end of the week, do an average. If you find that you only wrote 300 words across the whole week, maybe a 30,000, 40,000 word goal isn't ideal. Maybe it's a 5,000 word goal for the end of the month, or a 10,000. That is something that I always do when I'm prepping for NaNoWriMo. I do a week in the month before where I treat it as if it was the NaNoWriMo and I start writing. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be your project that you want to work on. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. But just spend a week writing, get yourself an average, and then work out what you could realistically do in that time frame based off of that 1 week. So just make sure that you're setting yourself some those SMART targets, smart, realistic, attainable targets. Next up is coming up with a plan. I know it's kind of obvious. If you're going to be writing a project and working on a novel, you need to outline it, you need characters, you need to plan your world. However, keep it simple at this point. It's so easy. I've done it myself. I have somewhere around. When I was writing my Viking novel, this book is absolutely stuffed full of all of the research I was doing at that time. So I have got all my notes, I've got loads of stuff. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and I mean literally, I've got 3 textbooks over on the bookshelves. I spent time researching articles. I've got all of these notes in here, all based off of Viking research, and because I wanted to get it as historically accurate as I could. I then did the same amount of work looking at each of my characters and locations and writing down a timeline, and I was so meticulous with the planning that it actually took me almost a year to finally start writing. And what I'm saying, not saying that you shouldn't do that, because if that's what you need to do to be able to start your book, that's fine. But some people, including myself, get so wrapped up in everything must be planned and I must know what's going to happen throughout the entirety of the book and who every character is. Books change. Any writer you speak to will tell you that the first draft of their book was vastly different to the end product. The one that I'm working on this year, The City of Sunder, when I first thought about this idea and this story, it was going to be based on the line of there being an old monarchy that was overthrown, that the new government is sort of unleashing this drug, and it was going to be kind of around all of that. It's now completely different. The drug aspect has been taken out altogether. There is still going to be a poison, but a lot of what I originally thought of has now been refined and changed. And if you look at the plans I had originally to what I'm now writing, you wouldn't even think it was the same book, apart from a few of the names. So, you know, while it's great to be like, I need to know everything, it's also really good to think that books do evolve, they change, they become their own beings, and sometimes you just have to sit back and let them. So while I will say it's good to have a loose plan, which we will tackle in the next 2 videos, we'll be looking at how to outline a novel. I will be doing my clumsy best to explain that, as well as looking at how to generate characters and where to get inspiration for characters. I will also say that, you know, coming in with 3-4 binders full of notes is not going to actually help you for a challenge like this. It will help you in the long run, but for this challenge where the idea is to get words down on paper and get started, it's going to be a hindrance. So it's definitely, I would say, have your loose idea, at least know where you want your story to start, even if you don't know the ending, because the good thing is with this 1 month challenge, even if you just make a start, that can then help you form the basis of where you're going to go next. So definitely plan, but don't over plan, because, you know, like I'm doing right now, explain, don't over explain, which I'm about to start doing. So we're going to move on. The biggest thing that I struggle with is motivation when I'm doing these challenges. I always start day 1, I will kick out 4,000 or 5,000 words, and I'm like, cool, I've now got a little bank of words that I can use on the days that I don't write. And then I inevitably get to the end of the month and I still have 4,000 words, and I look at it and go, shit. So how to keep yourself motivated? There are multiple different ways, and no one way is going to work for every single person. I definitely feel a good way of saying this is, it sounds a bit corny, but write when it feels right. Don't try and force yourself to write if you're having a bit of a bad day, or if you're not feeling motivated, or you've got no ideas. That's fine, have a day off. You don't need to have like an elaborate setup. If you've got your own set routine and your own set place, that's fantastic. Even if it means you grab the back of an envelope and you start scribbling on that for half an hour, that is progress. So when the inspiration hits, start writing. Motivation can hit in the most annoying times and places. So I always carry a notebook around, or I have my phone and I will just jot down bits as they come to me. Annoyingly, a lot of the time it's as I'm falling asleep, and I'm like, great, thank you for that. But you know, if you're in a place where you can write and the motivation hits, Just sit and write. But don't force yourself to write if you don't feel it. Definitely having things like accountability buddies on the Discord. One of the channels is to find an accountability buddy. If you don't want to have the entire group, you could just have 1 or 2 people where, you know, they're the people you go to when you're struggling. Make use of online resources as well. Jonah sent me one that I've been looking at today called Writing Habit, which looks really, really good. It's basically, it's a sort of word tracker and it gives you stats, but it also does analytics for you, and there's an option for feedback, and you can also compete against other writers if you want to have a little bit of a competitive edge and, you know, write an amount of words in an amount, like, and compete against other people to write the most amount of words in a time. I have used For the Words, which is one that it's like a game and it's all animated and it kind of looks very childish when you first go on there, but it's really cute because you're basically building this world and this village and you fight monsters, but to fight the monsters you get given a time frame and a word count that you have to hit in that time frame. So it might be you're defeating a little tiny pygmy creature. You might have to write 200 words in 45 minutes. It could be that you have to go against a dragon and you have, you know, that same 45 minutes, you've got to write 1,500 words or 2,000 words, you know? It's just really fun. And you get rewards and you can get extra bonuses and create your character and all of that. And I just thought, for me, as someone who is very highly motivated by games and gaming, it just adds that element to it that is perfect for me. And I love that it's like an RPG but based on writing. So that is definitely one that I find helps me get motivated when I'm struggling. I also use the London Writing Salon. The London Writers Salon, I found this back in 2020, 2021. They created an online writers hour during lockdown, and it started off as once a day at 8 a.m. GMT, where we come on, we write for an hour, but then it gradually expanded, and now there are 4 a day that focus on, it's 8 a.m. UK time, EST, I can't remember what the Western America Pacific Western Standard, I don't know, but the California time zone and also the Australian time zone. There are 4 opportunities every day on there where you can sit and write for an hour, and the premise of these writing hours, you do in the first 5 minutes, everyone in the chat, it's on Zoom, silent calls, you can be muted, you can have your camera off if you want, but you write in the chat what you're going to be working on that day, and they do like a little quote that someone will submit from the chat. They'll give you a little sort of motivational quote. You get 50 minutes of silent writing where everyone will still be on camera together, but you just mute yourselves and do your writing, and it's kind of like a body doubling thing. And then the final 5 minutes, they'll pick 1 or 2 people out to talk about what they've been working on. But they also have a whole bunch of other stuff. They have their own like Slack and group, and they run courses like the Julia Cameron's Artist's Way. They run courses with that. And I used to be a member, I'm not currently, but you can access this for free. You don't have to have a membership in order to join the writers hours. Like any type of writer is there, whether it's someone who's picking up a pen for the very first time up to fully published authors. Olwen Hamilton, who wrote the Rebel of the Sand series, she's quite often on there. And it's just a really lovely community of writers where everyone just has a really lovely time. And I find that one really motivates me. Because even though I'm not talking and communicating with them, just seeing them on the screen and knowing that those people are working on their novels, it's like, okay, I should probably do that too. So those are like my biggest tips of motivation. I know a lot of them seem pretty obvious, but sometimes you need to be reminded of the obvious to go, yeah, I actually don't. Because how many of you, hands up, how many of us know what the obvious things are and know what the most basic things are, and yet we still don't do them? And then when we finally do them, we go, that actually helped. Guilty. Right here. Yeah. And I know you do it too. Everyone does. So yeah, you need to be reminded of those basics. And I'm reminding myself with this as well. I'm going to wrap it up, but what is the final piece of advice that I will give? Have fun. If you're already stressing out about writing, for this project, it's probably not the right time to be doing this. If at any point you are not having fun or you're not finding joy or enjoyment in what you're working on, reach out, have a chat with all of us, talk through what is going on, what is the problem, maybe reevaluate whether or not you're going to join in. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be a challenge that's going to be, yes, to make progress on our writing, but also to just sort of, for some of us, it's an opportunity to get back into writing, and it's supposed to be just a very nice, gentle, no pressure writing challenge. But for some of us, it might be that you're on a deadline and you're going to use the challenge to get to that deadline. But just look after your mental state, look after your well-being, and try to remember this is a positive experience. And at the end of the day, we are writing because we love to create, not because we're forcing ourselves to do something against our will. I mean, you might be, but I'd hope that you're not. Have you started any planning or prep work for your projects yet? Have you decided on your project? As I said, I have decided on The City of Sunder, which is my steampunk / fantasy kind of crossover novel. I have been plugging it and still will continue to plug it as Treasure Planet meets Arcane. So if you haven't watched either of those, I would say watch them, especially Arcane. It definitely draws more heavily from the sort of this undercity and the bond of sort of, you know, messed up bonds between siblings. It heavily leans more into that side of it. But it also does have the Treasure Planet with like the robots and the different kind of creatures and the different ways of travel. So there's kind of a bit of a crossover. Anyway, yeah, let me know what your projects are if you have decided. Don't forget to check out the Discord. Don't forget to check out the previous videos. And I will see you on next week's, which is, I believe, outlining your novel. I really hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.